Welcome back to 100 Days and Beyond. I'm Dudley Peacock. This is episode 6, and this week the whole arc is about diagnosis, how to read a business before you try to change it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. I learned the hard way. Most transformation projects do not fail because the technology was wrong. They fail because the client and the vendor were solving the wrong problem. Somebody bought a new ERP when what they actually needed was a process redesign. Somebody rolled out a CRM when what they actually lacked was the knowledge to use it. Somebody paid for an AI chatbot when what was really missing was the capacity to answer the calls coming in. So today I want to give you a simple diagnostic, 4 constraints. If you can name which one you are hitting, you will save yourself a lot of money and a lot of lost years. Let me walk you through it. Capacity is the most obvious constraint and also the most misdiagnosed. It shows up as a team working nights and weekends. It shows up as a finance team that cannot close the books in under 10 days. It shows up as a founder who still has to be in every sales call. When people hit a capacity constraint, they usually reach for headcount. They hire, and a year later, they are still drowning because the new hires did not fix the underlying problem. The problem was never that there were not enough hands. The problem was that each pair of hands was doing work that a system could have done. Capacity is the easiest constraint to feel and the hardest one to fix well, because the instinct is always to hire before you automate. Here is the test for a real capacity constraint. If you doubled the team tomorrow, would the work actually get done twice as fast? In most businesses I look at, the answer is no, because the bottleneck is not the doing. The bottleneck is the handoffs, the approvals, the waiting for information. Knowledge constraint is when the business cannot answer a question it should be able to answer. A CFO who cannot tell the board what the gross margin is this month. A sales director who cannot tell you which channel produced the last 10 paying clients. A founder who cannot tell you what it actually costs to deliver each contract. This is not usually a skills problem. It is a data problem. The information exists somewhere. It is in spreadsheets, in email threads, in the head of one senior person who's about to retire. It is just not organized in a way that answers the question quickly. When I diagnose a knowledge constraint, the fix is rarely a new dashboard. The fix is almost always upstream, getting the data into a single system, making sure each transaction is categorized properly at the point of entry, and then the dashboard comes almost for free. People install Power BI and wonder why their reports are still wrong. The reports are wrong because the data underneath them is wrong. Fix the plumbing and the dashboards light up on their own. Process constraint is when the work itself is done well, but the flow around the work is broken. A quote that has to pass through 5 people before it can be sent. An invoice that takes 2 days to produce because the finance team has to chase the project manager for the billable hours. A purchase order that needs 3 signatures for any amount over £100. Process constraints are where I see the biggest quick wins because the technology to fix them has been around for 15 years. Workflow automation, approval routing, conditional logic. This is basic stuff. And yet most businesses I walk into are still doing quote approvals by forwarded email. The danger with process constraint is that people try to automate the existing process without asking whether the process should exist in the first place. If a quote needs 5 approvers, the answer is usually not to build an automated 5-step approval flow. The answer is usually to ask why it needs 5 approvers, discover that 3 of them have not rejected a quote in 2 years, and cut them out of the flow entirely. Scale constraint is the most interesting because it hides. The business is running, revenue is up, everyone is busy, on paper nothing is wrong. But the founder is starting to notice that the things that worked at £1 million in revenue are no longer working at 5 million. The handwritten spreadsheet that used to track every client now misses half of them. The weekly Monday meeting that used to align the team now runs for 3 hours and decides nothing. The sales process that used to close on chemistry now loses to competitors who have case studies and proof. Scale is a constraint about the shape of the business. When you hit it, the answer is almost never to do more of what you were doing. The answer is to rebuild the foundation under the business so it can carry the weight of the next phase. This is why Agencynomics talks about the staging milestones, 0 to 250,000, 750,000 to 1 million, 1.5 million and up. Each stage breaks the model that got you to the previous one.